Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Games Podcast. I'm your host and sometimes referee, Zach Stat Pearson. And today I'm joined by the officer, whose last name is still Cops, a one Officer 9000 plus one. And of course, I'm also joined by the Wakandan ambassador to the United States military, a living legend himself, a one Michael Dat Hill.
The entirety of shit 2 is full. I'm not sure how to feel about this development.
Don't worry. In 4 or 5 days, people will get frustrated, make a new character on a new server. You just hold strong. The geek shall inherit the server. That should be on a shirt. I digress getting into those topics. Topic 1. Should there be a set limit on how much DLC goes into a fighting game? Especially since so much DLC can be created that it does not fit on the game disc if they were to do a re-release. Topic 2. Although Dead or Alive 5 goes into the 4 figures and is technically one of the most profitable fighting games to be released with long series post-development, Dead or Alive 6 development cycle and post-game production ended after only 2 years. Do you think it was because there was too much TNA, bad publicity, or because them prices for things close to $2K for all the DLC, by the way, no joke, was the factor? You decide. And yes, I know we've spoken on DOA 6, in particular DLC, and how much we hate their disgusting practices. Well, now we're just trying to figure out what killed the horse. Topic 3. Of all things to be made DLC in fighting games, one of the rarest is new moves for existing characters, which usually gets relegated to a re-released final version. Do you think game developers avoid making new moves for older characters for balancing issues, or simply because they don't think about it? And lastly, topic 4. What should Capcom alter in the inevitable Street Fighter 6 to possibly grow interest in the franchise and recover some longtime fans, besides the net code? Which isn't even a proper term for it, but unfortunately it's the current colloquialism for it. If you don't know what colloquialism is, Google it, because I can't properly explain it. All right, go ahead and regale us, Hill, whilst I get me some water.
Yeah, so we got a little bit DLC because everybody wants fighters and stuff in their games, but when you look at how Smash did their initial roster and their DLC versus how Dragon Ball Z Fighters is doing their DLC, with the fact that we're gonna add like fucking 12 Gokus to the game for like no reason at all. It's the same damn character. Whew. Number 2, really just all the bad publicity of having increasing DLC fucking packs with nothing good for going for it, and how each season pass just keeps scaling up in price with bullshit cosmetics in that game. Calculating that in the past, when you're seeing it getting worse is.
Did it disconnect from him?
I don't know.
Shit. Hill, did you walk into a dead zone by chance?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, last thing we heard is size is getting too excessive on DLC.
Was price size getting too excessive? Yeah, hang on, let me open this door. All right, hello? Hear me?
Yeah.
All right, reset the question.
You can if you want to. Topic 1. Should there be a set limit on how much DLC goes into a fighting game?
All right, yeah. Because Drew, people always want more stuff for fighting games. Either it's a new fighter, old fighter, a crossover fighter, or just cosmetic stuff. But this like, you can't put the entirety of the entire game community into one game. Nor can you really pander to too much nostalgia. Because it wouldn't make sense to have a Street Fighter game without Ryu and Ken, obviously. They're like the core people have been in for a certain amount of time. But I wouldn't blame you if you fucking didn't add the people from fucking Street Fighter 2 Turbo all the way up until now. And fucking, that's an old ass game. Only very few people remember that game. Also, there's no need for excess costumes or different alternate colors that can only be bought through the store. That should just been in the game. The rise and fall of DOA 5 and 6.
You have to
Fucking
let people know when you change topics.
yeah. Number 2. The rise and fall of the Dead or Alive. Fucking, you gotta have a car payment for damn near all your DLC for no reason at all. Even to
I
make
know, right?
all that fucking DLC really available, even though it is popular, you don't need to do it. Fucking use what you did for that shit to fucking expand your game, do other cool stuff with it. Hell, even just patch up some of the old shit that's been wrong with the game. You don't have to keep try to shield out to fucking the thirsty boys having a fucking ribbon outfit. If you're gonna do shit like that, just fucking put that shit into your fucking beach party game, not the actual fighting game. 3. New moves for old characters. Is it the lazy move or is it a balancing move? I feel like it's a fucking lazy as fuck. It's fucking. It's easier to have the data already available from your previous stock than then trying to go up and change things that don't need to. Granted, sometimes they do. Can't say it's too lazy, but like, damn near Mario's had the same fucking moveset since fucking the original Smash Bros. And I think like the most newest thing would be his taunt where he fucking throws around Cappy instead of fucking eat the Mega Mushroom. So as things progress, certain things don't change. I feel like the most ambitious changes have actually come from the fighting games that have like people hardly talk about, like fucking Soul Calibur. They fucking, from every Soul Calibur I remember playing, their movesets and the fucking critical fucking triggers and your soul triggers have changed so much per character every year. I'm impressed by it and I love it. So it is possible, but you do have to face the fact that you will probably be blown under the dust of, oh, here's Ryu again for the 100th time. For how do we help build up number 6 in the Street Fighter franchise without saying netcode? I'll just say, ooh, I know, fucking don't have that shitty arcade thing where I have to play in 400 arcade matches just to get one alternate color. Make unlockables reasonable. Also, fucking make a storyline. And fucking most of these games have a single player mode you can fucking delve into and understand the world around Street Fighter, because I'm not sure how many people even remember Ryu and Ken's story about why they got to fight Akuma, what they did to their fucking old master, Why M. Bison's after fucking Cammy and fucking all that other shit. So implementing back into your lore that you put in the past up till now would be much appreciated.
Yeah, let's be honest. Street Fighter V's story literally only answered one question. Mind you, it was a question that was almost excuse me, that was almost 20 years old at this point, but they only answered one. What happened to Charlie? And the answer was kind of dumb. And then my personal favorite, now he's back where he started. We're not sure if he's dead or alive again. The fuck?
Yeah. That's my take on that. Also, go back to the. Well, this is just for me, but like, go back to them the simple supers where I don't have to watch a whole entire cinematic to fight because that takes up too much time. That's why I like fucking watching Guilty Gear stuff sometimes. Unless you're doing like the fucking one-shot KO fucking move they have, I don't have to worry about it. But if you're just fucking doing a Shinku Hadoken, I don't need to watch a fucking 30-second clip of Ryu fucking charging up his arms like, oh, here it comes. The movie spanned the whole match, but bigger. That's all I gotta say for these.
Okay.
All right, I guess I'm up.
Yes.
All right, let's see here. For topic 1, which I feel topic 2 is intentionally very closely tied to, yeah, I think there should be some amount of limit. And, well, this might sound like a bit of a cop-out, but I'm honestly not sure where the line should be drawn. I mean, you've got absurd examples, like the shit for Dead or Alive, but then you have a lot more reasonable examples, like, in the opinion of some, myself included, like the newest Smash Brothers and how they're doing their DLC characters. I think ideally the balance should be basically that if they're going to be adding like a bunch of DLC, but it's just going to be freaking, individual costumes, don't charge for that shit individually. Just put them in like packs of maybe 10 or 15 costumes per pack. Don't make them individual things. That way, people will be probably, at least those who would be susceptible to that kind of thing, I believe they call them whales, would at least be more willing to, go for those rather than, let's just, wait until they later on release another DLC that combines all those packs together.
Oh no, we have a funnier word for whales now. They're called simps or game simps.
Game simps. That one works pretty well, yeah. But yeah, for these game simps, inevitably they're just going to do whatever they can to get the most money out of them. But I believe a balance should be struck somewhere between what, say, Smash Brothers is doing and maybe something along the lines of, hey, we're adding these DLC stages and costumes as, new content, but not like for one, maybe like a pack of a decent number of them. But even then, just don't take the DLC to the point where you're making more content for the game in DLC than, the game came out with to begin with. Despite a lot of companies these days looking at games as, oh, it's something where you release it and then work on it over time. People will be patient. They won't care if the game's complete because they're under the assumption that we're going to put
Oops.
more effort into it and make it better over time. So the initial impact on release doesn't matter. At least if I'm understanding those corporate types correctly, which, who knows? I don't speak corporate. I actively avoid that kind of shit. Oh, topic two. Honestly, I think it was because of all the fucking DLC and people calling them on it. Because, honestly, that shit was just. That was fucking ridiculous. That was just fucking ridiculous. Uh, though, for Dead or Alive 6, uh, let's see here. Oh, okay. That or maybe they're trying to focus on their next game for the release of the next console generation rather than, making more DLC for the games that they got for, oh, hey, let's continue milking this. Instead, they're, moving on to the next console so they can make the next game that they'll milk the fuck out of DLC for.
See, you're not the only person I heard say that, but I don't know. But I'll wait till it's my turn. But that there's some merit to that idea.
Yeah, that's basically what I think on it. Okay, topic 3. New moves should not be DLC. No, that shit shouldn't be DLC at all. If you're going to do new moves, you should do it for like maybe a new version of the game. It's not like that's a new thing for fighting games, as I think about how many versions of Street Fighter there's been. Ugh. Mind-boggling to think about it. But yeah, it shouldn't be DLC. And as for the reason why they haven't been, I think they're aware that it's a thing that they could do and that they make money off of it. I think, though, that they're concerned that if they do that, it'll cause way too much backlash. But who knows, really? Maybe they'll start doing that. Maybe they'll risk it. Maybe the backlash won't be as bad as they think. Or maybe it'll be worse. Alrighty. Topic 4. Um, as was already stated, I'm thinking maybe adding actual story like content, or at least more substantial story content, would definitely be appreciated. Though I realize there's a decent number of people who play fighting games, at least I know, that don't really give a shit about the story. And all they care about is, playing the game and, doing the fights and the like. They don't really give a shit about the story. But I wouldn't mind seeing more story. I'm sure there'd be a decent number of people who would join me in that thought. In addition to that, maybe have, rather than sticking in a bunch of DLC costumes, have the costumes be unlocked through reasonable in-game progression rather than, fucking ridiculous. But, what do I know? I'm not really big into fighting games. I can't really say I speak for those who play them, so it's whatever, really. And aside from a story and adding more costumes that you can lock through gameplay progression. Honestly, not thinking it too much here. Maybe, I don't know, throw in secret characters that require like really annoying in-game progression stuff to unlock. Because, far as I've heard, at least, that's kind of been a thing going on the wayside for fighting games. But unsure. Is that the case, X?
Say again?
That fighting games these days are having less in the way of unlockable characters and the like, rather than that, just having here is your character list.
Yeah, what they're trying to do is barely or not have secret characters at all, but then, feed you 5-6 characters over the course of a year and a half, into next year, into next year, into next year. Like, they want to basically indirectly imply, hey, you got to have this character.
Yeah, I think, a return of more characters that require unlocking could be more interesting. I, kind of appreciate the putting in effort and being rewarded for it, at least as long as the character isn't, utter garbage. But, other than that, I can't really think of much else for Tough 4, so I guess that's it for me.
Wow, that was a very unexpected answer for topic 4. But, hey, I wouldn't bring you guys if we all thought alike. Okay, let me see. Okay, now that I'm on voice activity. All right, as far as topic 1 is concerned, yes. Holy shit, yes, there should be set limits. The problem is the governing bodies that can do this, controlled by corporations, if they can do it, and we would need to basically overhaul and restructure how the shit gets handled. Now, the thing is that, how to put this? I think the limit should inherently be determined based on disk size, not what type of content and how big the content file size is. For instance, everyone and their mama knows I love me some Final Fantasy VII. I also love it when I'm able to add some remake sauce on it. Despite my feelings on the graphics in relation to the non-playable characters and the backgrounds and objects looking like they came from a fucking PS3, hey, a good game is a good game, There's no such thing as perfect graphics, so I acknowledge it looks like shit, but I didn't really care because I came for a good game. So, the content should be set either by the big three or based on content type. Microsoft say, okay, you want to do alternate outfits and camos? Okay, well, you can't go past 3 gigs or you can't go past 400 outfits. Something people aren't even going to want to fuck with. That way they have the option, but at the same time, it's not really going to oppress what they may try to do. Because with an RPG, which I think they should have the best or the biggest limits, hey, we all used to that PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era. Oh shit, this game's so big. When I get to this part, I got to put in a new disc. Final Fantasy VII Remake, again, you have to install the game before you play the game. There are only like 3 PlayStation 4 games like that, and 2 of them are RPGs if memory serves.
Yo.
If you're an RPG maker, who's to say, because your game is successful, you can add in a whole nother story area or revamp a story area you had to drop for time and size constraints and go ahead and put it in a post-game setting. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition literally has a mode that takes place 2 years after the original story. And they even said it was a place that technically always existed, but we never got to fully make or design. Should they be held to the same restrictions as a fighting game? Fuck no. Not to mention, a lot of these motherfuckers, and I mean that in a neutral format in this case, for fighting games and games that have a lot of cosmetics, they actually install the shit to your disc. You're not buying the data and material. You're purchasing a key that unlocks the gate, the guard to that content. I'm not even joking.
So instead of being a downloadable content, it's
unlockable content. Yeah, it's the same as Street Fighter versus Tekken shit all over again, but it's way worse. Okay, and they don't even hide it. It's blatantly in your face. Okay, so let's say, for example, because Dead or Alive is going to be popular today, or at least in this podcast, let's say you want to get outfit, I don't know, 35 for one of the ninja girls in the game. First thing I'll tell you is to see this outfit, you must first install the catalog. The catalog doesn't put an image of the screen up when you go to the character select. The catalog is installing every single outfit that they made in that bundle or pack or season or whatever. All of them. But what you're paying is $3.99, $1.99, $4.99 to access it after you already installed it onto your fucking disc. You're paying for an access code. Do you really want to hold them to the same standard as the RPG people? Hell no. So I believe there should be a limit, but I'm not sure how to properly quantify or what metric to put it on. But I will say fighting games should have some of the highest limits and restrictions because they will go out of their way to monetize even basic shit. Topic 2. Okay. I don't think it's because PlayStation 5 is around the corner. I don't think it's because Xbone is around the corner. Because first and foremost, when a new system comes out, games for that new system sometimes go into production as early as 3 years ahead of time. Sometimes they go into production before physical dev kits go out. Did y'all know that?
Didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah.
That's new information.
Yeah, there was some dude who was making a Vita version of a Call of Duty game. And he mentioned that his next project, he got told he got to get ready for the next era of things. Of course, he tried to rephrase it later, but then we found out almost a year and a half or 2 years later, which was last year, the next title he worked on is a game that's coming out for the PS5 or some shit. So the way I look at it, point blank, we all know games take years to produce. So when a new system comes out, games have been in the works for years. Dead or Alive is a special case. Koei Tecmo has made enough money off of gambling, gacha, bullshit, and Dead or Alive to be able to have one team working on Dead or Alive and another team working on a future title. In fact, fun fact, this Dead or Alive that is going disastrously wrong, and they're saying that it's all fucks up. Yeah, this is the first time that person that's in charge has been in charge of a Dead or Alive game. This guy who's in charge of 6, he wasn't in charge of 5. He wasn't in charge of the 3DS game. And he damn sure wasn't in charge.
First time and last time.
Basically. And he damn sure wasn't in charge of game 1 through 4. We don't know who's in charge of, or if we were going to see hide no hair of a Dead or Alive 7 anytime soon. But the way I figure it, they're trying to divert all resources to a Ninja Gaiden game because that's a property that they haven't scorched yet. They fucked up their little Musou Dynasty Warrior shit. They fucked that up because of coding and also obsessive microtransactions. What's the next one? Oh yeah, Dead or Alive, they recently burned up all goodwill that they built up because Dead or Alive, for the most part, it could be taken seriously. Going just from 4 to the 3DS to the place current era. Because you got to remember, Dead or Alive was one of those fighting games or just franchises that it's been here for a long time, but people don't overall recognize it. It's not because the games don't sell by word of mouth. It's because promotion died after 3. When they got to 3, promotion was lackluster. Really, I'd say 4, but 4 was different. They didn't do commercials. They had random ass, weird, disturbing MTV advertisements. I don't know if y'all remember those, but yeah. So
Don't remember those.
you're not missing much. So, the way shit was going and the way shit was working, fucking, I promise you, if they're getting rid of people or if they fired that guy, that might have done it. So, the best things I can think is they want 100% devoted resources to Ninja Gaiden because they can't fuck this up. Or the guy who was making Dead or Alive 5 is working on the next Ninja Gaiden and he wanted his full team. Because remember, they never fired him. That dude did good. He also did the 3DS version of Dead or Alive as well. The one that had Dead or Alive 1 through 4 and it told the whole story and made it make sense.
Wow, shit.
Yeah, something even Street Fighter still hasn't fucking done. Dead or Alive on the 3DS is literally Dead or Alive in order. Or Dead or Alive 1 through 4. But they don't call it that. And I really wish they would. Because just think about how much more attention that can get you. Also, real talk, wasn't no other fighting games on the 3DS except Street Fighter 5, and they didn't even properly fucking promote it or Street Fighter 4, but they didn't even properly promote it or update it. They made one version, said they were going to continue it if it sold well. It sold well, and they still didn't do shit. And that was year one of the 3DS being out, when we still had the little tiny one. So, yeah, so they can't use the excuse of, well, we stopped because we saw the Switch version coming. Matter of fact, Street Fighter 5 still ain't on the Switch. Street Fighter 4 ain't on the Switch. I don't think it's going to come. Personally, I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really care either. I don't hate Street Fighter, but everyone knows I respect it as a franchise and its sentimental value and emotional value for the gaming community and history. But look, if you can't find the middle ground in between Street Fighter style gameplay and Marvel vs. Capcom gameplay anymore, like you did when you play the Tekken characters in Street Fighter vs. Tekken, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, the potential is there. And like always, Capcom makes something with a lot of potential and then pulls a Sega. I say Sega because Sega's older than Capcom. They go and they burn out and abuse some goodwill a product gained or a franchise gained and then act like they didn't know that they were fucking doing it. Who here did want Skies of Arcadia 2? They laid the groundwork for Skies of Arcadia 2. It was in pre-production. Then fuck it.
Yup.
23 years waiting on the Streets of Rage 4. 23 years waiting on Streets of Rage 4 to come out. And Sega shot it down almost 6 times before it came out. I don't understand the logic.
At least we got it, though.
Yeah. So I think realistically, they want the full team working on some new project, but I don't think it's necessarily Dead or Alive. So yeah, my answers are basically it's either A, fucking the next Ninja Gaiden, and they're trying to work on some type of realistic co-op and whatnot, or they want to salvage Dead or Alive 5, not even go to 6, but salvage Dead or Alive 5 and make a super version for the new systems. But if you read what they said in the article, which I'm going to pull up because it's still on Fighters Generation, they said they were stopping all production. All production. Excuse the pause, which I'm going to edit out. I'm going to look up the fuck happened. I feel like people care a little bit too much about the friendship maneuvers coming back in Mortal Kombat. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, they were pretty funny, but eh.
Let's see. I'm gonna just do Control F and search this shit. Control F, Dead or... Oh my god, there's a game called Dead or School. I'm not touching that on the principle that I'm pretty sure it's weeboo animu bullshit.
Probably.
The main cover, I hate side advertisements because if someone walked by and they see ads on the side, they imply you were looking at shit like that. It's a fucking schoolgirl in basically what looks like a bikini and a trench coat. Yeah, okay. Because I haven't seen
Japan.
Yep. And always acting like nothing they did, they're not, like they don't understand why their content is viewed the way it does. Like, no one will ever believe that shit. Like, I don't understand. Oh, well, we can't do this because there's censorship in the West. Like, no, you can't do this because it's fucking wrong. Stop trying to act like it's just one country, one continent. It's the whole fucking planet. That's why I tell people, like, I can respect the culture and ethnicity and still be disgusted by it at the same time. Dude, I love me some Japanese culture and sushi. I know that the Japanese aesthetic is bigger than just, oh, look, a cartoon show. Oh, look, they make video games too. They have cool fashion sometimes, you know, the shoe game, okay. They have exotic food, even exotic for them and whatnot. And they also just have this random vats of unrealistic, holy shit, how is this a thing? And when the holy shit, how is this a thing shows up, that's when my brain goes, you mugs need to figure out or understand that you can't act like you don't know how shit is supposed to be. You're just willfully ignorant at this point.
Of course, don't forget about their extreme xenophobia.
And that's it's not as bad as China. Like, no one's gonna beat the fuck out of you in the middle of the street.
True.
They'll say shit online. You'll get more online trolls than anything. Then again, that's kind of true for North America now these days, but depends on where you are.
But like, if you go into some like restaurants over in Sunrise Land, they'll tell you if if you're not native, they'll be like, go.
Oh, that's totally illegal, even in Japan. I would not go. I would call the police on them. Okay, can't find the statement, so I'm just going to Google it. Dead or Alive 6 development canceled. I like how cancel culture is always a thing, but no one said DOA was technically canceled. That's kind of funny. Here it is. Dead or Alive 6 is ceasing development after final DLC. Information originally came out April 2nd, but yeah, here's a brief summary. All right. Yes, Twitter announced. Yeah, I should have went to Twitter in the first place. Important notice: as of Dead or Alive 6 patch version 1.22 is scheduled to be released on mid-April. DLC adding revival of costumes, of course you are, bug fixes, premium tickets to be released on April 16th, because of course they would. After over a year of updates, patch 1.22 will add DOA 6's final DLC. Current features like online matches, ranking, and the story will remain available. We hope everyone continues to enjoy Dead or Alive 6. Thank you for understanding. Dead or Alive 16.
So, wait, you said April 2nd. Is you sure that's not like some April Fool shit?
Yeah, that's they had to go out and clarify apparently as well.
Okay.
But nah, it's a fucking thing, and kind of their own fault. So yeah, I don't know why in the fuck they woke up and decided to do this, but like I said, that's the best I can figure out. They're all resources are getting devoted to a remake, but then if that's the case, why would you say you stop production? Because technically you're not if you're porting it. Or the next Ninja Gaiden or the next big title within the company because they realized DOA 6 was a lost cause. Or they're just mad, it didn't make as much money as it used to. Because, you didn't burn off your goodwill, as everybody over at Bethesda has learned.
Yep.
Moving on, because that was a little bit too long. All right, so I think they indirectly avoid making new moves as far as topic 3 DLC moves are confirmed. What I think happens is when they look at possible DLC, since no one brings up en masse, give us new moves, give us new moves, give us new moves, they don't bother with it. I don't think it's because they think it's impossible to balance. Because first off, let's be honest. What do you think is going to be easier for a developer to balance? One new move on an old character, or a brand new 100% new character? The new character.
Yeah, obviously.
I think they don't think about it, and that's where I think that they fuck up. Or they fear if they introduce that option, upper management, because upper management only cares about one thing, they may do something stupid like, oh, here's a premium version of the same character. All their moves were completely different or better than the original. Don't ever think for a second somebody won't try that. Here's Ryu, but here's Premium Ryu or Premium. Premium Ryu can use all the moves of Sakura and Ken, and he could do them in real time at the press of a button. And his supers do double the damage of regular Ryu, and he's twice as fast. So what, I can buy a boss character now? Shit. Yeah, dude. Honestly, I'm not saying Capcom would do it, but that's just an easy example because who don't know Ryu at this point?
Sure.
I just still find it funny that people call him Ryu. I was like, he's not made of bread. He's not on rye, motherfucker. But accents are accents. No harm, no foul. So I'm just sitting up here like, that's probably why. It's not because they don't want to. It's because these mugs just genuinely didn't think of it. Also, at this point, the way companies are with microtransactions and obsessive and excessive monetization, I couldn't trust them with it. I'd rather they make a 2.0 version or some shit like that. And when they make that 2.0, 3.0 version of the game, give them the new moves. Because that's what they did with Ultimate Marvel. Every single character got one new move in the final version of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Every single character. So that was less of an issue. All right, now let's go to topic 4. Okay, well, I'm sticking with that. No, we can't just say netcode because netcode is an umbrella term and not the actual correct proper terminology, but, it's popular, so it gets used because it gets the point across. Here's what I'm thinking. The word is hypernomy. Netcode is a hypernomy. It's not the correct term, but it's a hypernomy or hypernomy. Not sure what the best way to say that is. Never heard another person say it out loud. I think what they need to do, and I've hinted at this over the podcast for maybe 3 years now. 3 years I've been hinting at this. They need to have a combat system that is modernized. And I don't mean, it has modern fixings on the user interface or the featured list. I mean, they need to alter how combos are input. If they want to do shortcut commands like Grand Blue Versus, I don't care. Do shortcut commands. What I'm referring to is the combat type needs to be altered from the ground up. It really does. And hear me out. Did you play Street Fighter versus Tekken?
No.
Yeah, well, I can't blame you. I'm pretty sure I remember you being thoroughly disgusted at how they were doing things. But here's what I'm thinking. In Street Fighter vs. Tekken, the Tekken characters did not play like a Street Fighter character. However, they also did not play like Tekken characters. They had a new... What the fuck? Okay. Sorry. They had a new format that was exclusive to them for the game. Right? It didn't have a set name either. So what I'm thinking is they can go out and do that same shit. They can legitimately go and take the entire Tekken style gameplay roster and fight like that. Now, what's the best way to describe what they did? Okay, so basically what they did was they went out and they decided that the Tekken character's button presses and combo ability naturally flowed without a proper timing situation being as big of a factor. So Imagine you do a traditional Street Fighter combo with Ryu. You do light punch, middle punch, and then a hard shoryuken. Now, you and I both know if you're not like rapidly tapping that medium button into that shoryuken, you're not going to get those 3 hits to connect because the game naturally almost resists a combo being made, which is weird. But with the Tekken characters, that's what it is. Combos felt more like Soul Calibur. You did one button and you could press another button, and usually they end in 3 hits, even if the characters are more than 3 hits. And then the next button is a special forward input or down input, or you can do a special without the game resisting or fighting you. I don't know. See, it would be better. It would be better, so much better, if there was somebody who could like explain it who's really deep in the FGC lore and shit. But nah, they didn't do that when Street Fighter V came out. They basically did Street Fighter 6, but instead we're gonna input a move that has a special formatting to it that alters how the character controls, but not by much. That's what they did. Then later on, 2 years later, they added a second version of that. So they completely negated any option of adding adding more special abilities or special attacks to the old roster. All they did was exactly what I thought they would. Because I knew that they weren't going to try to expand this game by just adding new characters. If they find some middle ground between the slowness and, I guess, unusually drastic timing, pace, and management that goes into Street Fighter style combat, and they still slow down the speed that you would normally find in a Marvel vs. Capcom game, I'm all for it. Hey, look, I'm not old. Technically, reflex-wise, mental acuity and whatnot, my brain just finished development, and I'm in the prime of physical. I am past my prime by only a few months when it comes to physical capabilities. I'm not no fossil. I'm 31. So because I'm 31, the laws of physics and science statistically dictate that no matter how strong and fast I can get, it's not as strong as fast as I would have been when I was under 30. Even though technically I can get stronger and faster than I was when I was under 30. Work out that logic. But one day I'm going to be 50. One day I'm going to be 60. One day I'm going to be 40. You know? Certain types of movements aren't going to be as good for you, or they were never good for you, but your body could fend off the damage that you cause. For example, wave dashing and the unnatural play state that people utilize for Super Smash Bros. Melee, Smash 4, and Ultimate. We've had doctors confirm some time ago that quite literally that's not good for your body and you're damaging it. You're damaging your hands. So that means, yeah, but here's the thing. Normal people aren't playing like that in the first place. I know what wave dashing is. You know what wave dashing is. But those short hops that make your thumb contort in unusual positions and shit, because you got to remember, the Smash community, an arcade stick is a foreign concept to a lot of them. It genuinely is a foreign concept to them. So since it's a foreign concept to them, you know, they naturally don't think, oh, if I had a bigger controller, I could possibly mitigate some of this. Because they would have to recondition themselves, and they have no idea how long it would take for them to get acclimated. So on some level, I understand that shit. This is work for them. This is work for them. And I'm basically telling them, hey, you're doing your job the wrong way. Completely start from scratch this way. We all know people ain't gonna just jump like that.
No.
So I truly get it. If they can do an alteration to the combat that speeds it up, but not as fast as Marvel, that makes the combo connections easy and flexible like Marvel, but at a slower pace, they ain't even gotta have no super jump shit. They ain't gotta have a launcher. I would totally play that, bro. I would totally play that. And we've already seen even the people who made Street Fighter coming away from it. Fighting EX Slayer. You ever heard of that game?
Nope.
Yeah, well, it's literally made by the dude who was in charge of Street Fighter 2. He even implemented 3 different control formats. Not play styles, formats in the game inherently, for the simple fact that he knows that when people get older, certain shit that used to be easy is gonna get hard. He even said in an interview before the game came out, he has trouble now to where he thinks that he can't do the dragon punch motion. And he's not a smoker. You know, his diet is relatively average for the Japanese man. So, to be honest, I just sit up here thinking to myself, yo, if the original person who made Street Fighter 2 has acknowledged it, the person who made Street Fighter, who also made King of Fighters, has acknowledged it, what excuse do these motherfuckers have? Who's still working on the game right now? Like, just alter it. You could make 5 the last hurrah to that format. Change and evolution and adaptation is a part of all gaming. As long as they keep the roster robust, the types of moves interesting, and they promote and market the fuck out of it, guess what? Everything is going to work. No one's going to get mad, and the people who do get mad, well, guess what? Tell their ass go play Street Fighter 5. Tell their ass go play Skullgirls. Tell their ass go play Fighting EX Slayer on a technicality. Street Fighter 5 still going to be there in the morning. Street Fighter 4 still going to be in there in the morning. But yeah, that being said, this has been another exciting episode of Token Games Podcast. I will see you guys when I see you guys.
Later, peeps.
Done.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Games Podcast. And now we have part 2, of course, featuring an oldie but a goodie, the once and future psychological savior, All Thesis, back in that ass.
Glad to be back, and this looks like an interesting set of topics.
Because he loves fighting games, I might add. All right, so the topics have already been read off. I know it's been a little bit since you've been on a direct podcast, so just a brief reminder. You don't have to read off the topics, but you do have to say what topic you're on before transitioning into the next one. So yeah, go ahead and light us up.
All right, great. Let's just step into topic 1. Limits on how much DLC goes into a fighting game. This is pretty self-explanatory. I think it should be limited to disk space. If you have enough disk space to do a lot of DLCs, go for it. If not, I don't know what you're doing, because then it would sound like a re-release or a special edition will be more of a cash grab, but just keep it that way. Pretty simple. Space.
Interesting.
Whatever the hard disk can fit is how many downloadable characters they should do. Pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. Although, since we're on the subject of DLC real briefly, the DLC should make some form of sense, especially if you're a fighting game that tries to pride yourself in a story. Other than that, I'm cool with it. I think it's a great switch up. If you could integrate it well, then go for out-of-the-box characters, not just don't do it. Okay, so we're just going to move on to topic 2. This is about Dead or Alive 5. I heard about this one. I didn't play it, so forgive me. This one is, do you think it was because there was too much TNA, bad publicity, or because them prices for things?
6 for the record.
Is topic 2 basically about the success of Dead or Alive 5?
No, topic 2, which, I mean, if you hadn't read it, it was okay. All you had to do was ask. So, Dead or Alive 5 was extremely successful, as is notated. It's one of the most successful fighting games that has ever been made, which, first off, nobody saw it coming. Not even they did. And when they made 6, it was bad publicity after bad publicity after bad publicity. But however, they kept making insane amounts of illogical cost DLC to the point where it's more than a car payment. Not even joking. The current amount is over $1,400 for all DOA 6 DLC. However, instead of supporting it for about 5 years and some change and porting it on multiple systems, they stopped supporting it after 2. Then why do you think it is? TNA, publicity, something else, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, in this case, I definitely think it's a mix, because if you look at the history of the Dead or Alive series, which, again, this is something I didn't know about. I'm very shocked that a Dead or Alive game was that ridiculously successful. I think it's a mix of all, because Dead or Alive's niche at the time was jiggle fighting. Basically, in a fighting game, you got a lot of fan service, where a lot of the fighting games of the past, like when we talked about Cammy and Street Fighter, and some others had some outfits that didn't make sense, which is great fodder for a comedy set, but it wasn't taking itself too seriously on being jiggle fighting game. I mean, Tekken had its own special outfits with some of the women characters, but that wasn't really the focus, and you actually had to work for that in order to get those special costumes. Same with King of Fighters and other fighting series. But I think the Dead or Alive's appeal was its engine, the fact that it was a lot of fan service, and probably a lot of this publicity. I think it was a mix of all of them.
So they were doomed from the start, basically.
Yes. I played the first couple of Dead or Alives a long time ago. It wasn't too bad. It's just that at the time, it just couldn't, it wasn't at that tier. Like, there was the classic tier, which is Street Fighter, King of Fighters, and the Capcom Versus and the SNK Versus games. Then there was the 3D tier that was Tekken, Virtua Fighter, and so forth. And then Dead or Alive was just its own niche. And I think they used that to promote the Xbox pretty big at the time period.
Yeah.
As an exclusive title, right?
Everything after 2 was exclusive to Xbox and even had commercials. 4 was weird. 4 didn't have commercials per se. It had weird short infomercials on MTV, which made no kind of sense, but MTV doesn't follow logic until Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out comes on, and then it stops making sense.
That's actually a good point about MTV, because the only thing it's good for are the sitcoms and Wildin' Out. Outside of that,
like literally, the only thing that the best way I can put it is Justina Valentina is almost like the embodiment of MTV for me, because she has actual talent and skill. I actually listen to her albums. They're on Spotify. She even comes from a musical family. So her playing or being involved in music is just destiny. And her shit is good. She's one of the best female rappers I've listened to in damn near a decade. But at the same time, her YouTube channel and MTV presence, she goes around and just implies slutty shit all the time. It's like, I don't think you understand that your character has an identity crisis. And it's one thing when a human has an identity crisis. Your character has an identity crisis. But I digress. Continue.
right, really good, right, really, really good points. But that's how I feel about the Dead or Alive series. I think that it was a mix of both, but I guess it's one of those games that stuck to its area pretty well and somehow succeeded. But 2,000 for DLC, that's awful. Did anybody? Okay, before we move on to topic 3, one question: did anybody pay for all those characters?
If they did, they didn't pay for characters. They paid for outfits, bro.
Not characters, because if it's whole characters, I see, but outfits, that's kind of
Bro.
wow. That's brilliant. They're brilliant.
Let me make your head hurt real quick. I'm gonna give you the official link to the Steam page shop total. And also Justina Valentina.
Cool. I mean, I'll definitely take a listen to her stuff, her other stuff. But
let me go to Steam for you. Oh yeah, and they took out half the features. So yeah, there's also that. And then didn't tell anybody and acted like we weren't supposed to be shocked. Fucking assholes.
That's not good at all.
Literally, Kohop has been in that game since I think 1999, and they chucked it.
Yep. Okay, so while you're looking at this, I can go in on topic 3 because this is interesting for DLC.
I already
new
found it.
moves
Go ahead and
that-
look at that screenshot. You can pick your jaw up now.
Yeah, that's a high-end desktop gaming and streaming system.
$2,173.40 goddamn cents.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's a high-end gaming rig, and you still have about $200 left over to splurge. Seriously.
Nah, that's like the monitor of a high-end rig. Or just the desktop with no monitor.
Right. But that's still a lot of money for those.
2 car notes minimum, if not 3.
Yeah, that's wow. I hope nobody paid. This is interesting. Now, downloadable move sets for existing characters. It's an interesting concept to make DLC, actually to give people something to fight for. Like, you fight, you pass, but instead of getting a new outfit or unlocking a new character, you unlock this new move set with a current character. And I do think that in this case, game developers might be avoiding making new moves for certain old characters. Some of it is balancing. And I can use Tekken as an example. We all know how OP Heihachi was in the first 4 Tekkens.
No, we don't. Elaborate.
Huh?
No, we don't. Elaborate.
Put it like this. Heihachi was the main boss in Tekkens 1, 3, and 4 at the time. Mm-hmm. In Tekken 2, Kazuya was the boss, and he was OP. But I'll get to briefly how he was really OP in Tekken 2 in a minute. But when you consider Heihachi, most of Heihachi's strikes on first blow would take about 35 to 40% of a full health bar. On counter, his thruster is in Tekken 1, his counter on thruster, I kid you not, 65 to 70% of your health bar.
That's some SNK bullshit right there.
Yes, that's how ridiculous Heihachi was. Now, in later Tekkens, they would scale it down to make more sense, but Heihachi still hit more with a counter hit as opposed to a normal hit. Like, there were so many times in Tekken 4 where I used to light people up back in the day just using Heihachi's using his thruster, using his circle, which is his right kick, instead of his left kick, which is the X button on the PlayStation 2. You use a circle kick, you don't get up to 30% of the bar. They stagger, which gives you the ability to combo. So if you gave someone like Heihachi a new set of moves with that much raw power at the time of Tekken 4, he would have been too OP. And if Tekken had a competitive scene back then, Heihachi would have been banned. So I do think that sometimes they do it for balancing issues. Like, think of Capcom versus SNK 2. This is another example, and this is one you should be familiar with. Ultimate Rugal or God Rugal and Shinakuma.
Fuck that SNK shit. SNK made them bosses. I don't care what nobody say.
They did. No, I agree with you. But remember, with Shinakuma was ridiculously offensively powerful, but for balance, Shinakuma couldn't take many hits. Imagine if Shinakuma, after you pass the game, you go into the goodies mode or the extra mode after, and you can add Shinakuma not taking that much damage. Shinakuma would have been banned. So I really think that new movesets are probably a thing of balance. Now, there are some stories where developers may forget a move, but I really think they do it for competitive balancing, since Street Fighter has a whole competitive professional tournament style. So does Tekken. They all have competitive metagames now. Balancing matters. Like, in the late 90s, when these games were really at their peak and being conceived, nobody was really thinking about balancing. You were really just thinking about having a good time. But real players who played at the arcade or played as much as me and my older brother did, we knew exactly who to pick and why. How much approximately a counter hit would take versus a normal hit. What was a stagger hit, what wasn't. So again, I'm glad that in the 90s, you didn't have downloadable movesets, especially for Kazuya and Heihachi. They would have had to have been banned from the game.
Okay, I understand. Gotta remember, the audience doesn't always know what we know.
Right. That's why I was trying to trail back and explain what certain things were so people could understand. But just know, certain characters have something called what's called, and you yelled it, SNK or Capcom boss syndrome. This basically means that the character's regular hits count for double the percentage that your normal character's hit would. On a counter hit, it's at least half to 65% of your health bar. And they have, in the case of Street Fighter characters and SNK characters, super special moves which could take up to 80, 90%, or 100% of your health bar. That's what boss syndrome is. And SNK really popularized it in the King of Fighters 94, 95 with Rugal. 95 was worse because Omega Rugal's normal kick used to take a lot of power, and his move called the Genocide Cutter used to could take on counter 50% or more. It really depended on the circumstance, but that's what's meant by boss syndrome.
Okay, so go ahead and summarize your answer again real quick, because I lost track of what the fuck you said.
Generally, though, I just think that they avoided making new moves for old characters for balancing reasons, especially now since there are competitive metagames for a lot of the popular fighting games out now. It wouldn't be fun and it wouldn't be fair competitively. There was a time where Steve Fox in the Tekken series was banned from competitive play, as an example.
Okay.
And the last one, Street Fighter 6. Okay. Street Fighter is one of those games that I used to just play and not worry about a storyline. So I was happy when Street Fighter 4 came out, but then was confused that Street Fighter 4 was retconning and changing a lot of the things according to the old story. So we're in Street Fighter 5, which is right before, obviously, the Street Fighter 3 games, which weren't bad games, by the way. Street Fighter 3 was not a dumpster fire the way so many people thought it was. It was actually a more balanced game. But we can talk about that on another podcast another day.
Yeah, there is something I do want to ask you, though, because I remember this because, I was born before this game, but I was born into the transitional period between the twos, the alphas, and the third strikes, and that was one of the things I didn't understand. So I always look back on it and think to myself, did the first third strike, which weird to say, did the first version of Street Fighter 3 suck because it sucked, or because people just didn't like that there were no returning characters except for like Ken, Ryu, and Chun-Li?
I really think that at the time, a lot of people were confused with the new characters. And because you have to understand, the first Street Fighter came out in 1987. I was 1 year old then. I didn't play my first Street Fighter game until I was like 7 or 8 years old. So you have to consider, from the time I'm like 6 or 7 years old, all the way up to when Street Fighter 3 comes out, I have been playing the same set of characters, growing with their movesets and learning. And then I go to Street Fighter 3 and I'm like, why are the only characters here Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li? So a lot of people were turned off by that. Actually, they were turned off by the super system, by the super gauges too, because remember, the rage art that's really popular now, that started with Street Fighter 3. The rage art and the super arts. Yeah, that started with Street Fighter 3. And in the Alpha series, and so the first Street Fighter game that actually had a super combo was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That was also Akuma's technical first game as well. So you had one super, but you had to fill up the meter, and all you had to do was just enter the directional pad motions and the button, and you had a super move. Alpha added on to that by just having 3 level gauges, which is how the punch times 3 and kicks times 3 buttons came to be. So when you get to third strike, you had to actually choose, and then you had to learn what an EX move was versus a standard special move. There was a special, an EX special, then there was a super, then there was your super art, and then there was your rage art. I think that Street Fighter 3 tried to put in way too many changes that didn't appease a lot of their old fans, which is the price you pay for innovation. Let's be real. A lot of the things we see today, we saw in Street Fighter 3, the first one and Third Strike. I don't remember the title of the first one, but that's what ended up happening. So Street Fighter 4 comes along. It flips the storyline on its head and it gives us a story which, when it came out, I'm an adult. I graduated college. I'm like, they're still making Street Fighters. So I played it. I thought that it was interesting that they were making move sets consistent with the story that they were doing. They did something similar with Street Fighter 5, but Street Fighter 4 was directly after, in story, it was Street Fighter 1, then Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, then the Street Fighter 3 games. Now, if you're going to pick up where you left off at Street Fighter 5, then you probably need to have the sequels to the Street Fighter 3 games. I think that it's time. Instead of another in-between prequel. Because I don't know about you, but I'm ready to play Power of Nothingness Ryu. Like full time. I'm ready for Ryu to be a secret boss. How much work has he put in to still not be a secret boss character? Well, his evil forms were secret characters throughout the lore of Street Fighter, but
no,
the man has trained with Oro.
Yeah, the shit is just, you gotta understand, well, you already know, but first and foremost, Street Fighter's runner changes hands almost every number title, which is an interesting thing to say. Street Fighter 1, that guy who also laid the foundation for Street Fighter 2 left before Street Fighter 2 came out. He also made King of Fighters. He stayed in SNK for quite some time before he went to Dimps. And I know people don't remember Dimps, but Dimps' job was to basically be a third-party game developer via commission. They did the Budokais, so that's why you didn't hear from him forever. He was doing the Budokais. Mm-hmm. The second guy, he left Capcom, and he just recently, 2 years ago, he made Fighting EX Layer. If you guys remember those games, he was basically in charge of that shit, but he left the company. Mm. As you can see, once the human rights violations start to take a strain, people bounce, because that's really what did it. Street Fighter Third Strike comes out. I don't even think anyone remembers the name of the dude who was in charge of that shit, but Ono was involved. Eventually, when they were winding shit down, they stuck Ono on Street Fighter, a Capcom Fighting All-Star Jam, the redo, because the other one was so shitty, because the guy who was running that said, hey, fuck you, Capcom, I'm out. So you see the pattern here. Street Fighter 4 is one of the only times we've had consistent people. So Ono is in charge of 4, and he's also in charge of 5. And he's also going to be in charge of 6. So that alone should let you know that even if Capcom's head is not up its ass, people will still leave the fucking company. But Capcom's head is randomly in and out of its own ass.
This is true.
So, as far as me, the way I look at it, I think when they make a mistake, it's a genuine mistake, but also it could have been avoided because they know they don't have to treat people like shit. Bro, Hideki Kamiya and Shinji Mikami, they both worked on Resident Evil games, and as you know, Shinji Mikami birthed Devil May Cry. Here's the thing. Their wives used to try to file missing persons reports from them because they were working 20-hour shifts. And half of it was overtime.
That is crazy.
And yeah. And that's normal, which is fucked up. But continue.
It is insane, and it's always good to have those historical discussions about just how terrible Capcom is, because that's why we don't get consistent stories with a lot of the Capcom titles. I'm glad that the guy that's been here for the past current Street Fighters is going to be here for 6 because my biggest thing was, can we finally make Ryu the secret boss character they've been pushing since 4?
Well, it wouldn't be a boss, more like it would be a super transformation. And the closest you get to that is, and after all these years, the closest you get to that is because the first time they implied some shit like this, because Evil Ryu doesn't count because supposedly he conquered him before Street Fighter 2 even happens. But the first time the idea of the ultimate Ryu or Super Ryu happens is, as you mentioned, Third Strike's ending. However, if you want to see a playable iteration of something like that, you have to skip all the way from when did that oral thing come out? That was the first Third Strike, right?
That was like that. It was like Street Fighter 3 New Generation, and then Third Strike was the sequel to that. So that was really the last one in the story.
So Double Impact, and Double Impact came out in like 2002-ish?
Right.
Yeah, so you don't see an actual iteration of a Super Ryu until 2000 fucking, I want to say 11. When did Ultimate Marvel, actually I'm going to ask Google because I have a British Google. I just like hearing it. Hey Google, when did Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 release?
Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3's initial release date is November 15th, 2011.
So from 2002 to 20, that's almost a flat decade later. And what they did is they made it so in Ultimate, if you press down, down, double punch, down, down, any 2 attack buttons, he turns into a Super Ryu. When he does a hurricane kick, it looks like there's a lightning storm coming. And I'm not even joking. It can hit from basically half the screen. And he doesn't even go with it like Ken does. His Shinku Hadouken, apparently it's got rubber in it because it can bounce off of different angles and walls. And oh my God, that Shoryuken, bro, the Shoryuken should be a super combo. I feel like it does too much damage. It literally, if you get hit by Super Ryu's Shinku Shoryuken, first off, ain't nothing gonna connect to it, so you might as well use it at the end of a combo. That thing can take over 20 to 30% of a life bar, or just about. No other move in the game can do that in one shot. And it counts as 8, I think.
And I'm kind of wondering why we should be getting this Ryu if there is a Street Fighter 6. It's time for him and Ken to finally be the secret unlockable characters. They're old enough. Other than that, I mean, I like what they've been doing system-wise and story-wise. I just have to see who the new antagonist is going to be, since technically Bison is quote-unquote dead as of Street Fighter 5. We'll have to see if that holds, but really, I just want to see
DLC. You can quote me on that. I said he's dead until you can he's dead until they can charge you for him as DLC. You can quote me on that.
Now that I do see a DLC Bison, because Bison is as part of the series as Ryu, and plus Bison's a freaking pop culture icon. Do we all know about the yes meme?
Yes. I just like how Bison, like, he almost never has a full sentence that's verbalized unless it's a cartoon. But for some reason, as much as people hate it, that hokey ass Street Fighter live action movie, the first one, not that Chun-Li shit, the first Street Fighter live action movie, and the cartoon show, the American cartoon show, Bison has the coldest lines, and you don't realize it as a kid, and it's funny and fucked up now. I killed your parents. I burned your village. Yes, I did these things. For you, it was the worst day in your life. For me, it was Tuesday. Oh,
bro, that line is so messed up.
And then, like, it was almost like a challenge. The cartoon, they did it when they started showing off Cammy, which, by the way, first time someone who is married is getting seduced in a children's show in North America. Historical moment, fucked up moment, you decide. But I digress. One time, Cammy sees Bison, right? And Cammy, fucking, she sees him and she's trying to kill Bison, and he's no, it's Chun-Li, and he says, what was it? Fuck, it was so funny. Okay, so Bison, I think it was Cammy or Chun-Li snuck up on Bison. I'm leaning towards Chun-Li, and he says, Bison, you killed my parent. Yeah, it was Chun-Li. He says, you killed my father. I was like, Chun-Li, I killed my parents, but you don't hear me whining about it. I'm just like, dude, I'm 6 or 5 watching this shit. It doesn't hit me back then, but holy shit. Still don't know how E Honda was a computer hacker and science whiz, but okay. But holy shit.
Right, like the cartoons from the 90s that used to come on USA was wild. I watch it now and I'm like, this actually didn't stop. This is actually
Yeah, it's just that USA didn't want to pay the money because Mortal Kombat did well, but it was expensive to animate. The Street Fighter show did well, but they couldn't renew the license. They got 2 seasons, but they couldn't renew the license. I think they even had, when they had Savage Dragon on there, I think Chun-Li was in an episode or something. There was some type of crossover. It was either Chun-Li or Thor.
Yeah.
I can't remember because I was really young, but I know Chun-Li or Thor was on the Savage Dragon show.
That was the USA lineup, the Mortal Kombat cartoon, the Street Fighter cartoon, and I think the old Double Dragon cartoon, right?
Well, everybody had the old Double Dragon cartoon. Oh, here's something that creeped me out. Dude, Mummies Alive is somehow in syndication with less than 100 episodes. They still playing that shit.
That is interesting. But I'm not looking for much from Street Fighter 6. When you really look at the engine, the story, I'm pretty much satisfied with where it's going. I do want that Bison DLC. I would love for that Super Ryu to either become a real secret character or a DLC. And there is one story continuity thing. I don't know if you know it, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Is Oni real?
Oni Akuma is basically supposed to be what you would think of. Well, it's a weird situation. Okay, so Evil Ryu, which was never supposed to be his name, is not considered a character. He's considered basically a nightmare that Ryu has, and he got over it before Street Fighter 2 starts. That's how the story goes. However, Kage, even though Evil Ryu's in Street Fighter 4, Kage is considered real. Evil Ryu almost existed, but as the way the Street Fighter 4 story is told, Gouken stops him from happening.
And that's what pisses off Akuma. And apparently, Akuma and Gouken had that battle to determine who's going to take Ryu. That was the real ending of 4.
And then they made a CG little cutscene thing about it, but no one really knows how that happened. But the assumption is that Akuma finally did officially kill Gouken at this point, or something of that nature, right before Sakura saw him, or right after Sakura saw him. Sakura's supposed to be the person that got Ryu out of there, and Akuma didn't like that, but Gouken stopped him, but whatever happened, happened. Anyways, so he doesn't ever officially exist, even though we've played him. Hold on. Someone's at my door, hold on. With that being said, all right, you got any closing statements for the audience?
This was cool. See you guys on the Marvel vs. DC one very, very soon.
All right, with that being said, I will see you guys when I see you guys.